It's the Find Your Voice show with Coach Vuyanzi. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Today's interview is with a powerhouse, Denise Hamilton. Make sure that you check out her bio below. Get your notebook, get your pen, because school is in session. Hello, everyone, and I am ultra excited for today's interview. We have Denise Hamilton. You know who she is. And what we're going to do is jump right into this. Denise, tell me, what is your quote that you have for us today?
There's so many that influence me. I'm a big quote person. But one of my favorites is experts fail because they are experts in a world that no longer exists.
I'm going to ask, say that for the people in the back. They may not have heard that.
Experts fail because they are experts in a world that no longer exists. It reminds me to keep learning, to keep growing. It gives me a discernment around who I interact with, who I allow to advise me, right? Because every voice doesn't deserve a voice in your head, in your life, in your direction, in your goals. And sometimes someone has achieved a certain level of success and you think, oh, they're the person that can inform me. They barely know how they got there. They got there in a way at a time that is so different from today that their advice is almost useless. So if this advice, I think it informs both me and how I move through the world, and me as I advise others. I don't despise people. There's a great Bible verse, let no man despise your youth, right? I don't put people down because they're younger. I see, what can I learn from them? Mentorship can be mutual. So it just reminds me to keep learning, to be a lifelong learner, to never get too settled in my particular brand of genius, right? And to stay open to the fact that the world is dynamic. It's constantly changing. It's constantly, doors are opening, doors are closing. Things are happening every single day that change the dynamics. So I want to be thought of as an expert, an authority, a leader, then it is incumbent upon me to keep learning and growing and absorbing that new information, not resting on the laurels of what happened 25 years ago.
Wow, there is so much to unpack. Where's the script? Woo! And out the window, because you done started something here. So I actually want to go to something, because even in your answer, what I'm hearing is confidence, Denise. I'm hearing confidence in that you are saying, I am an expert and I want to be an expert, and being mindful as an expert. So that confidence, I want to kind of swish this and hover over that, because as much as Black women leaders are here and they are watching this and they are thinking about, well, I'm finding my voice, some women, despite their achievements, still don't have the confidence to say that they are experts. And I'm going to ask you this because I know I've heard this and I'm sure I know the answer to this. How many times have you interacted with another Black woman leader, and before they're telling something that they're able to do, it's a skill or an expertise that they're gifted in, and then they say, oh, but I don't mean to brag, or I'm not trying to boast. Like, they do all these disclaimers because they can't even say, I'm an expert. I want you to speak to those people for a moment.
Yeah, it is a really common challenge. And it's not just Black women. It's children of immigrant populations. And I wanna repackage your question just a little bit.
Okay.
There's not a right way and a wrong way to be, right? Like, just humility is beautiful. It's a gift. It's that gentleness of spirit, that ability to kind of subordinate yourself and elevate others. That's a gift. That is I would say, an attribute, right? Where it becomes a problem is where the game that is being played on the field does not acknowledge that gift. So if I really know how to swing a tennis racket, that's a gift. But if we're playing soccer, That's not going to help me, not even a little bit. And the reality is, in the environments that we are talking about competing in modern day America, we're on the soccer field. We're not playing tennis. And the truth of the matter is that set of skills and gifts and personal attributes that you have, I don't want to ever denigrate that, right? Like I said, humility is beautiful. But the truth is, you're bringing a tennis racket to a football match. And you need to make sure your feet work, right?
Yes,
And so what does that mean? It means the ability to kind of state your accomplishments unapologetically, take a compliment, the ability to present what your qualifications are, to address people that underestimate you and minimize you. Those skill sets are going to be a little bit harder for you to develop, quite frankly, because sometimes culturally, we're taught not to speak up. I have interns that, start with me, and I try to take as many low income interns, people who come from different backgrounds, right? And sometimes they'll come in and they want to call me Miss Denise. And I was like, oh, sweetie, I love the respect. It is beautiful. You were socialized to respect your elders, and that is wonderful. That is not appropriate in a workplace. And I have to explain to them why. When your peer Kyle comes in and he says, hey, Denise, can I da-da-da-da-da-da? He instantly has positioned himself as my equal. And you will be working here for 15 years, still calling me Miss Denise. You have positioned yourself as my subordinate. Right? And so that is it's not wrong. Right. I want to make sure I'm really clear on that.
Right.
That the intention of being respectful to your elders is beautiful.
Yes.
That is not the game that is being played on this particular field at this particular time. So you have to become a student of the spaces you are trying to operate in, and you're going to have to adapt to whatever the norms are of that space. And that means that may feel inauthentic, right? That's why I really struggle with the idea of, everyone get to be their authentic selves. I was like, no, they don't. I don't get to be authentic. I authentically want to be in my pajamas right now. That's myself. I want to have no makeup on. I want to be curled up in pajamas. I want to be binge watching something delicious on Netflix, right? That's my authentic self. The truth is, assimilation is work. Adaptation is work. It is draining, exhausting work. It is hard. It is challenging. And sometimes you have to play the rules that are presented. When you get to a certain position of authority and power and control, you can change the rules.
Yes.
Absolutely. But until you achieve that, you got to play the game on the field, baby.
Oh my gosh. You've talked about understanding one's environment. You've talked about the game of being code switching. Really, we can call it code switching when you're in certain environments. So then with that said, and this show is called the Find Your Voice Show. Amidst all of that, amidst your tennis racket at the soccer game, and not quite always having the ability to be your authentic self at all times, how does one find their voice in the midst of all of this?
I think for me, it begins first with courage, right? I am courageously me. I understand that my me is not for everyone. I understand that there are parts of me that will not be effective in every situation, right? That word effective is a word that I live by. It is my, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be the loudest voice. I want to be effective. I want what I do to matter. So sometimes my intention, my authentic self may be like to come at you crazy, and I have to pause and take a beat and say, what's going to be the most effective way to effectuate the change that I want to have happen in this situation right here, right now? What do I want? Right? And to be courageous enough to know when to bring forth this level of me or this level of me. I had a dear friend of mine who's since passed on, and he told me a long time ago, we were like college age. He said, Denise, you are a fire hose, and some people need an IV. An IV is all that is required. And I love the way he said it to me, because he said it in love of like, you need to learn when to turn it up and when to turn it down. So the key, I think, to finding your voice is first having the courage to get to know yourself. What works, what doesn't work, what resonates, what doesn't resonate, what your insecurities are, so you can manage them. It's a courage. And I know that word might sound weird in this context. It's not just merely a self-knowing, it's the courage of that excavation of you. So then you can know, can I be in this level of toxicity? Can I stay at this company? Am I going to be able to thrive here? Like, you need to know yourself, right? Am I nurturing myself? Do I have the courage to create a framework around the work that I do that allows me to refuel, to regenerate? You can't find your voice when you're exhausted, when you're run down, when you're ground down to the ground. Like, you can't, right? So to me, it is all about creating the optimal conditions for my success. Then my voice is under my control. I'm not ever being reactionary or impulsive. I'm thoughtful, I'm measured. I know what I want to say. I know how I want to be presented, and I craft that intentionally. But I think that is really hard. When I say it like it's really easy, but really hard, because the whole world is lined up to tell us who we are.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, y'all are so angry. Why y'all so angry? Y'all walk around with an attitude, and you like this, and why are you like that? That's why y'all can't, that's why y'all ain't got no men. You can't give, the whole world is lined up to tell us what's wrong with us, how we're not gonna make it, how it's not gonna go well, how it's not. So part of that courage is the courage to believe in a different tomorrow. Alice Walker's book, like, you never step in the same river twice. You have to allow for life to change, for things to change, for things to progress, for things to improve, for tomorrow to be better than today. And there's a great commitment to the narrative of today. We can't do this, we don't have that, we can't, but you need to allow yourself to imagine for a brighter, better tomorrow, right? I am blown away by Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm blown away by her, because do you know the courage you have to get ready when there's not even a path? There's literally not even a path. There aren't even stairs all the way to where you want to go, but to get ready anyway.
Wow.
That when that opportunity comes, you're the obvious choice. That's what I'm talking about. So wow. It's a courage, it's an optimism, it's a belief in yourself, and it's a deep belief in your ability to impact the world and for the world to change.
Wow. Speechless. There are so many things. I thank you for that amazing answer. And in fact, at one point, my eyes are welling up with tears in such a good way, because courageously being one's self in a world that doesn't like your skin tone, in a world that doesn't like your curly hair, in a world in which it really wasn't, the system was not created for you to be on top. So when you are on top, when there is a moment that you're able to create the path or be effective or be whatever it is huge. And recognizing that one of the things I always do in my talks, no matter whether I'm talking, what group I'm talking to, there are 3 words that I usually have my people say, who are ever sitting in the audience. And the 3 words are a question to themselves. Who am I? Because just like you're talking about, when you begin to say, who am I? Then you start to say, it reveals who you are. So we may say, oh, I'm a mom, I'm this, I'm that, and, have all these titles. But no, when you strip away, because now, my kids are grown. I'm a mom, but it's not like it was when they were 12 or 10 years old. They're older now. So it's like, I can't just identify in that motherhood. And this job no longer is the title that I have. So I can't identify as that role. But who is Vuyanzi? Who is Denise when you strip away all of this? And what you're saying is like that to be courageously one's self, it does take courage. I remember the unfolding of my discovering who I was. So I tried to be a lot like my beautiful friends. This is my perspective at that time in my 20s. Oh, they're so pretty. Maybe I could do this and look a little like that and do that. Denise, can I tell you a little secret? Yeah, I still look like me. I was still me. And then one day I was standing outside on the line to get in the club, the tunnel, big up to New York City, old school New York.
I was there.
So it's funny because I'm standing outside on this line, Denise, and I see a woman who looks, just to me, identifying her. She looked very similar to a look that I could have had, and she was being courageously herself. She wasn't, I didn't look at her going into the club, like her friends all look different, but she had the look that I was like, wow, she doesn't care. She's just being herself. And I remember that was the beginning of my becoming the courageous 45-plus-year-old woman that you see here today. So I love what you're saying. And one of the things you're talking about also is, you mentioned the word discernment, and then you described discernment even when you start to know thyself and the environment that you're in. How does one, Denise, begin to even identify what's healthy and what's not in terms of their work or business environments? And this is what I mean. When it's not at the level of toxicity that's like bam, bam, bam in your face, how does one discern who they are and when it's time to maybe change one's environment?
Such a great question, because quite frankly, I think a lot of people leave too soon. I think they give up on environments where they could have thrived, but they didn't have the patience or the grit, or sometimes a support system to kind of get over the hardest part of that environment. I have been the only or the first Black person in almost every job I've ever had. And I can honestly say some of those environments were incredibly toxic. I mean, toxic, like intolerably toxic. But others of those environments, people went out of their way to make me feel welcome, to incorporate me. And sometimes I had to get over my own disbelief, my own distrust, my own commitment to the old story, right? Remember, this idea of like letting yourself believe a new story is not just for other people, it's for you, right? Sometimes you need to believe, just because there's never been a woman at the head of that organization, or there's never been a Black person in that role, why can't it be you, right? Like we tell ourselves like, instead of rewriting the next chapter, we just make a copy of the last one, right? And so I believe that discernment comes from a couple places. First, who's in your ear? Who's in your ear? Who's in your business? Who are the people that inform you? I started this, we're saying, like, talking about expertise. And one of the other quotes that I really love is like, we have to be careful. Stop asking amateurs for expert testimony. We ask people who do not know. Your family members love you. They do not understand the corporate
Mm,
environment.
mm,
Your girlfriends from college are good friends of yours, but
right.
they may not understand this
No.
particular industry and what the rules and mores are. So here's that C word again. Here's that courage word.
Mm,
You have to build a network of people that actually understand what you're doing, who have gone the road before, who have experienced what you're experiencing, and make sure that your advisory panel is top notch. You want to build discernment? Talk to people who know.
ooh.
And we have such a beautiful, we're in a beautiful time. You know, you mentioned being 45 plus, I'm 51. And I'm microfiche old. I don't know if you remember microfiche old,
Very
right?
much so.
Okay. And all the young people that are listening now, go on and look that up. Look up the word microfiche. You don't even know what that is. But I'm old enough to remember where information was rare and precious and took a lot of time and effort to access.
Yes.
Now, information is so readily available,
Yeah.
we don't really appreciate it.
Mm.
If you believe that Oprah is an incredible leader, an incredible interview, and you can watch every speech. You can watch every episode.
That's
You
so
can watch everything about her you've ever wanted to watch. You don't even have to know her for her to be your mentor.
wow.
You understand that? We've never lived in a time like this. Instead of watching like mindless television, put on some TED Talks and
Mm.
listen to some scientists and some leaders and some experts tell you about, you know, problems that they're solving or nuances of the things that you're thinking about. What are you feeding into your spirit? That
Mm.
your discernment is a byproduct of what you have fed yourself. And so if you're not wise, right, you got to get some. You got to get some
Mm.
wisdom. And so I think this idea of creating almost like a curriculum for yourself of I'm going to feed myself challenging concepts, interesting people, thoughtful feedback so that I can grow in my ability to ascertain what the right path is, what the right decisions are, right? It's not intuitive. And that's a
Mm.
very hard thing to really swallow,
Wow.
because when we tell people find your voice, find your authenticity, like we have to be careful, because I want you to find your voice and I want you to know your voice. I also want you to be committed to educating, refining, developing, maturing, improving, enhancing, like who you are, so you are wise. You can live the same life 30 years. Every year you live the same life, or you have 30 years of wisdom.
Mm.
You have 1 year, or you're going to have 30 years. It's the same bridge of time, but there are people who are so committed to an old story,
Mm.
they're not useful to you. They're not useful to you in terms of growing and developing, maturing. So I think creating, for me, when I think about like finding your voice, finding discernment,
Mm.
it is about cultivating a deep, rich diet of wisdom, craving wisdom. Do
Wow.
we crave wisdom, or do we crave nonsense? Right?
Mm.
If I go back through the last week and I look at what you looked at on social media,
Come
it's
on.
going to be hours of Karen videos and cats playing with toys, or is it going to be the richest thought leaders of our time
Mm.
explaining how to do this or how to do that, an area of your business that maybe you need to grow in?
Wow.
Is it a podcast? Is it a TED Talk? Is it there's so much rich information, but the problem with so much is I think we can get overwhelmed, we can get inundated, and that makes us shut down and really rely on our little corner of the universe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is the opposite of discernment. That is the opposite of wisdom,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Shutting everything out so you can control it
Yeah.
makes it feels really good, but it ensures the demise of your expertise. It is the death sentence. So how do you open that up and make sure you're feeding yourself on a continuous basis so that you're well nourished? Wisdom needs food.
Oh, oh, you're preaching, hashtag preach. So we're getting ready to be on the, starting to wrap things up. However, you're coming with so much wisdom. You're speaking truth to power. Anyone who is hearing your words today, I dare you to walk away and not think that it's time for a change, or at least to look at one's life and say, what may need to shift, what may need to be modified, how can I be transformed by the renewing of my mind? So I ask you this, you come to us with all of this. Tell us just briefly, how have you, Denise Hamilton, found your voice?
The hard way.
Mm.
You know, I think it's gonna sound like a weird recipe, but I budget for failure. I plan to fail. It's a part of my journey. And in that failure, in that courage that allows me to make mistakes and not be afraid that I'm going to ruin everything, or world will end if I have a big old flop. That has allowed me to refine and develop my voice. I think too many of us are trying to build lives in a petri dish. You cannot iterate, you cannot create, you cannot make anything in your head. There's a point that you have to put it in the world, and you have to allow it to be challenged and tested and refined and sharpened, right? And some of us are so afraid, because they're so afraid of failure, that we're not willing to put it out there. And so the effect of that, the dampening, the very dangerous dampening effect of that is you don't learn what works and what doesn't work. You don't learn what are the best parts of you, because the only way to reveal that is to take the risk of the failure. So I have my voice because my voice has been tested. It's been refined. It's been sharpened. It's been broken sometimes. It's been shattered sometimes, but then I pick up the best pieces and glue it back together with some tape and some bubble gum, and I go into the next situation. So now I am, I'm not just the idealized me in my head. I'm the me that the world has tested. I know that I can rely on who I am. I have a list in my phone, in my notes section in my phone, of my wins.
Wow.
And I write them down. So anytime I feel like, ooh, can I do this? Am I up to this? Am I gonna be able to do this? I read my list to remind myself who I am. You gotta make sure you have a list. Cowards don't have a list.
Oh,
they don't. People who sit and critique other people, you know who I'm talking to. We are critics. There are people who are going to be, well, when I first started WatchHerWork, there was a group of people that loved to call me and tell me there's a typo, or there's a this, not in love, right? Just because they're like, ha, ha, ha. Like I want to be a creator, and I want to surround myself with creators, people that want to build me up and sharpen me and make me better, right? But you are not, unless you are willing to put yourself out there for that scrutiny, for that feedback, for that evaluation, you don't get that refinement. Then your voice is just a voice in your head. It's not a voice that's been tested by the world. And so when I think about this journey and this process, you know, finding your voice to me is about being willing to risk your voice.
Wow.
And that refinement that comes from that risking of it over and over and over again is what in fact makes us unstoppable. It makes us incredible. It makes us unbelievable. I am in awe of Black women. I'm in awe that we keep coming back. The world gives us so much feedback about what we can't do and but we keep rising. We keep, like, you think of like a Issa Rae, who literally, oh, you don't want to put me on TV? I'll put myself on TV.
Come on.
We have and Ava DuVernay, who literally was a publicist and said, no, I want to tell stories now. Like, we have so many stories,
Yeah.
right? And I am just committed to amplifying those stories. I'm
Mm.
committed to believing those stories and believe that they have the power that that could be me too, right? So I allow my voice to be deeply informed by all of these wonderful stories of progress and achievement and accomplishment and struggle. I watch them, I consume them,
Yes.
allow them to inform me. And
Yes.
that gives me the courage to kind of peel back my safety shell and say, hey, here's what I think. Here's who I am. And I'm lucky the world has received what I have to say.
Wow.
And I believe that if the people that are listening to this podcast will open up and allow their voice to truly emerge, the world will receive what they have to say as well.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. So you have dropped so many gems on our heads that I probably have knots on my head. And I'm going to have to take a Tylenol because it's a headache brewing in a great way. The most beautiful. Oh my gosh. Like there's so much here. And I could talk to you for hours and hours. Of course, that wasn't part of the bargain. So I'm going to ask you, Denise, people are hearing you. They are loving you without a doubt. Tell us, where can people find you after this show?
Well, the easiest place is denisehamilton.co, not com, denisehamilton.co. There's another author that is named Denise Hamilton. And if anybody wants to remove her from my life, I would, no, I'm kidding. But denisehamilton.co is the easiest way to find me.
Okay.
And then obviously watch her work. Please feel free to tap into the resources we have there at watchherwork.com. And then last but not least, I'm on all the social platforms at official DHam, at official DHam. And I'll put in a specific request. Follow Black women on social. Follow, feed what you want to grow. Encourage what you want to see flourish. If we want to help, how we find our voices, I think, is by helping others hear the voices of powerful, dynamic Black women. So I'm not asking you just to follow me on social, but today, right now, stop and go find 10 Black women that resonate with you, and don't just consume them. Follow them. These are the metrics of our time, and it makes a difference. And so if we want to see something, we have to feed the things we want to see. So thank you so much for this incredible, incredible time with you today. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Wow. I likewise, and that's all I can say. There's like little teardrops right here of tears of joy. And thank you for giving us all that you have given. And we do not receive it in vain. We receive it with open hearts, open minds, open souls, and knowing that you've given a charge to every woman who hears your voice today, that we cannot walk away the same way we walked in. Denise Hamilton, I put all her links in today's description. We love you and we say thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Good luck with this.